Hello guys, today we'll have the third and final free video from my newest course about how to structure Laravel projects, and the topic will be events and listeners, 2 open source examples. If you want the full course of 30 videos and 2 hours, the link will be in the description below. Now let's talk about events and listeners in Laravel. In this video, I will show you 2 open source examples of events and listeners in Laravel. One example comes from Laravel Music Service open source project. It's all about songs and likes of the songs and listening of the songs. And in the event service provider, they have a list of listeners to listen for the events. And for example, let's take the first one, song like toggled. It's an event name and it is listened by a listener love track on Last.fm. What is happening inside? First, where that event comes from. In the interaction service, there's an interaction service for registering the events of interactions like likes, like dislikes and stuff like that. And then there's toggle like function, which registers the interaction, the like in the database, and then fires the event of song like toggled for the interaction. And then that event is caught, is listened to. We go back to the event service provider, love track on Last.fm. Love track on Last.fm is a listener, and by the way, the event itself, it's just a class, just kind of passing along the interaction as a parameter, and then that interaction is accessible in the listener. So love track on Last.fm has the Last.fm service injected in the constructor, and then has event song like toggled, and the interaction is accessible via event interaction. Basically, it tells the Last.fm service that the song was liked. Now, why events and listeners here? I see the logic because if I like the song in the Laravel system, in their open source project, maybe in the future there will be like track on Spotify or some other external system or some other events happening, some other events to happen based on song like toggled. So in this case it's Last.fm, in the future it may be Spotify, YouTube or wherever. So for that we just fire the event and allow the future developers or ourselves in the future to add more listeners with more external APIs. And another example of events and listeners comes from the open source project accounting in the event service provider, which they shortened to just event. They have a lot of listeners and a lot of events. And let's take a look at this specific one. So on the case of document created, they listen and perform 3 actions: create document created history, increase next document number, and then some setting field created, which is not exactly clear. But the main point here, if we search for document created in the whole project, there are 10 code results, but look at how many times that event is fired. In the job of duplicate document, we fire the document created. Create document job, we also fire new document created. Also, bulk actions, sales, invoices, also fire event of document created, just with different parameter of which document was created. Then the event itself of document created is again just a simple event passing the document along to whatever is the listener, and in this case we have 3 listeners. So first listener, create document created history, has the event document passed to that and dispatches a separate job to create the document history, some kind of a log mechanism. Another listener, increase next document number, is just calling a separate function, another layer, to increase the next document number for that particular document type. This is inside of the separate trait of documents. It doesn't matter that much what that does. I wanted to show you just events and listeners. And also, the third listener, setting field created, probably calls something else. No, in this case, it's inside of the handle itself. So we just change the setting of company logo, setting the key, and changes the settings, for example, for media, like company logo. So 3 listeners for 1 events, which is used in multiple classes in Laravel project.